We are both guilty. I know that now as I lie here on the cold tile, halfway between the living room and the kitchen, my arms splayed out on either side like I've just been dragged from some wreckage. My limbs refuse to obey. My legs, especially the right one, have gone numb. Maybe it's the angle, or maybe it's the weight on my chest, this sense that everything I used to be has been crushed in the span of a single night. I try to push myself up, but my palms slide across the floor, slick with spilled water, or maybe my own sweat. Something inside me says, don't stand yet. Feel it, stay down. Because once I stand, I'll have to move. And once I move, I'll have to act. And I'm not ready for that. Not after what I heard. Not after what I saw. I tilt my head, and I see the corner of our old family photo on the living room wall. It's crooked now. That photo used to mean something. Me, my wife Laura, and our little boy, back when he could still ride on my shoulders. Back when I believed I had everything. My heart lurches, and I remember the sound of my father's voice telling me, if you love her, never let go. But see, Dad's advice came from a simpler time. A kinder time. He never told me what to do when the person you love becomes the source of your slow destruction. I rest my head against the tile. The smell of disinfectant stings my nostrils. She always kept this place so clean, so perfect. Laura. My wife. I can't even say her name out loud right now. It sticks in my throat, like I might choke on it. My voice is stuck too. But in the quiet, I hear my own breath. Ragged and uneven. Then the memory of last night sears through my mind. The blinking red light on the answering machine. That tiny, persistent glow. The phone's robotic voice announcing one new message. A man's voice, rough and breathless, saying her name. Saying, you were amazing tonight. A slight pause. The rustle of sheets in the background. Then his low chuckle, as if recalling her body pressed against his. And then my own recorded greeting interrupted him. Leave a message. My voice, intruding on his. It played again and again, stuck in some short loop because I hit the button twice without noticing. My hands were trembling so badly I must have pressed it inadvertently. That's how the evening started. With me back from a fishing trip the day early, wet boots left by the door, a cooler half full of trout I caught, and that blinking red light. The house was dark, except for a little lamp near the couch. She was gone, until the shower started running. I recognized the faint hiss of water in the pipes. And the house smelled like strawberries. It always smells like strawberries when she's nervous or scared, because she turns on that diffuser, pumping out a sweet mist that clings to the air. Strawberries. That's my first real memory of her from years ago. Her strawberry perfume, when we danced. But last night, it sickened me. It was the stench of something rotten behind all that sweetness. I clutched the phone in my hand. Listened again. The man's voice whispering, you were amazing tonight. And I felt the rush of images stamping through my head. I could picture him touching her. My wife. My partner of 15 years. The mother of our child. I wanted to throw the phone. I wanted to crush it under my heel, but all I did was stand there, trembling, unable to make a sound. The shower turned off. A few moments later, she came out, damp hair clinging to her shoulders, a towel wrapped tight around her body. She froze when she saw me. She didn't run, didn't speak, just looked at me the way you'd look at a stranger who'd walked in by mistake. Then she dropped her gaze to the phone in my hand, saw the message light. In the silence, it played, over and over. His voice, her betrayal. My voice layered on top, welcoming them to record more filth. She moved across the room. Sat across from me, knees pressed together, still wrapped in the towel. She fidgeted with her wedding ring, sliding it up and down, like she was preparing to take it off. She glanced at my ring. Our rings, which once symbolized a promise we swore never to break. I should have screamed. Should have flipped the table or punched the wall. But I was too numb. I put my ring down on the table by the phone. She raised her eyes to me, some mixture of shame and relief, as though she'd been living in fear of this moment. She took off her ring with trembling fingers and placed it next to mine. That's how it began, or ended. Hard to tell. Now on the floor, I suck in a breath and force myself upright. My knees wobble as I stand. I see the living room in disarray, the phone knocked to the ground. I don't remember throwing it, but I must have at some point in the night. My hand stings, knuckles raw, like I punched something, or maybe just clenched my fist, until my nails cut into my palm. I still feel the trembling under my skin. The diffuser is still on, filling the house with that strawberry aroma. It's nauseating me now. That sweet smell used to be comforting. She put it on to help herself relax. Now it smells like a lie. I lurch over to the diffuser, yank it from the outlet. My chest heaves, and I fight the urge to smash it. But I just let it drop into the sink. Water splashes, the thing cracks, and the smell mercifully stops. Only silence remains. We had a conversation last night. More a half-whispered argument. She tried to say something, but I made her wait, because I needed to ask her the same questions she once asked me years ago, when I came home late from an office party. She'd been suspicious of me back then, though nothing had actually happened. She'd wanted details, demanded the truth. Now it was my turn. "Where were you?" I asked, softly. That same question she'd hurled at me once. She swallowed hard, sat with her wet hair dripping onto her shoulders. "I was out." "Out where?" I pressed, hearing my own breath catch in my throat. She'd done the same, word for word. She exhaled, eyes flicking to the phone. "With a friend." "Which friend?" Silence. I turned away, remembering how she used to grill me for hours. "Tell me more." "Who is he?" I saw a flicker of anger in her eyes. Maybe shame, maybe desperation. "His name is Michael," she said. "We work together sometimes. Marketing." "He." She paused, as if she couldn't force the words out. I gave a short, bitter laugh. "Marketing. And what exactly were you selling, Laura? Because it sounded like it was you." She flinched. Then tears welled up. I wish I could say it satisfied me to see her cry. But it hurt. Hurt like a bone snapping under too much weight. We sat there, silent, just listening to the phone's repeating message. Eventually I grabbed the machine, yanked out the cord. The robotic beep died. But the words still pounded in my head. "You were amazing tonight." Then I stood. Went upstairs, rummaged for the old photo album. Sat on the edge of the bed we once shared and flipped through pictures. Our wedding day, her white dress shining in the sunlight. Her pregnant belly when we were expecting our son. Me carrying our boy on my shoulders while she laughed. Pages and pages of life. On one of those photos, she'd scrawled a note. "Love is stronger than fear. Always. It's insane how a moment can rewrite everything you thought you knew." The man in those pictures was naive, trusting, oblivious to the possibility of heartbreak. The woman in them, well, she smiled in a way that suggested she loved me more than life itself. I still believe she did, once. I remember pressing the photo album shut, the binding squeaking in protest. My chest felt tight, like I was breathing broken glass. Something in me snapped, or maybe it just woke up. I went down to the garage, grabbed a gas can. The smell of fuel always triggers a memory of my father's old Chevy truck. But I didn't linger on sentiment. I took the can inside, walked slowly through the living room, the halls, even the bedroom. The place that once sheltered our life together. Laura followed me, barefoot, still in that towel. Her wet footsteps squeaked on the hardwood floor. She kept saying my name. "Alan, Alan, stop, please." But I didn't stop. I heard her choke on tears as I started pouring. The rug, the couch, the photos on the walls. I flicked the lighter once, watching the flame dance at the end of my thumb. One flick was all it took. Then I tossed the lighter into the fuel-soaked drapes. For a moment, there was just a tiny flame licking at the fabric. She gasped, tried to rush forward, but something in me, Maybe the darkness we all carry stopped her. Then it all ignited. Flames roared up the walls, across the floor. Heat slammed against us like a physical force, a wave that pushed the air out of my lungs. My eyes stung, smoke filling every corner. She stumbled back, screaming my name, grabbing my arms, but I just stood there, letting the fire reflect in my eyes. I didn't speak, didn't shout. I felt strangely empty, as though some deep well of anger had finally run dry. We ended up outside, choking on smoke. She coughed, tears streaming. Her towel had come loose. She clutched it around her body, hair singed at the edges. My mind was blank. I walked back in. I heard her scream my name again, but I kept going, stepping over the threshold into that inferno. The couch was in flames, pictures curling at the edges. The heat was unbearable. But I couldn't leave it like this, not without letting it consume me too. Because the man I used to be was dead. If I survived, I needed to be reborn in some twisted way. The next thing I remember, I was lying on a gurney. Firefighters hovered over me, shining lights in my eyes. My skin felt raw, blistered in places, though the adrenaline dulled most of the pain. The house behind them was a raging bonfire lighting up the night sky in an angry glow. They tried to ask me questions. My name, my age. Did I have any medical conditions? I could barely speak. My wife was there, sobbing, trembling. She reached out to touch my face, but I turned away. I remember hearing one of the firefighters shout, "He's alive, but we need to move." They strapped an oxygen mask over my mouth. She tried to follow as they loaded me into the ambulance, but a paramedic blocked her. I saw her face crumple. She mouthed something, and I realized it was my name again. Alan. Over and over. But all I could think was how that name no longer belonged to the person I was in that moment. I woke up later in a hospital bed, bandages on my arms and hands, some burns across my torso. The doctor said it was a miracle I wasn't worse off. My face had only minor injuries. I couldn't see Laura at first, but eventually she appeared by the door. Red-eyed, hair a frizzy mess, wearing the same clothes she'd thrown on at some point. She looked so small. She approached the bed like a frightened child, unsure if the monster was still under there. I stared at her, my heart a storm of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to hold her, bury my face in her neck, and cry out all this pain until we had nothing left but exhaustion. Another part of me wanted to push her away, or spit venomous words in her face. Instead, I said nothing. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She stepped closer, took my bandaged hand in hers. I felt her trembling. I glanced at her eyes. Inside them was a mixture of guilt, regret, and something else. Fear of me. Maybe fear of the knowledge that she had tried to keep from me. Fear of the final reckoning. Then, in an echo of that old conversation, she whispered, "Where were you?" She had asked me that so many years ago, suspiciously, when I was late. It was as though she was searching for a way to connect now, but the question had changed meanings. Or maybe she didn't even realize what she was saying. I let out a breath. I was in our house, burning it down. She tightened her grip on my hand, tears rolling silently down her face. Neither of us moved. The nurse came in, asked if everything was okay. We both lied, and said yes. For the next few days, she visited me in the hospital, kept watch over me, fussed with the pillows, tried to help me sip water. I stared at the TV on the wall, letting her do whatever she wanted, but rarely speaking. The staff gave me pain meds that clouded my thoughts. In those quiet moments, my mind drifted to the past. I recalled how she used to wait for me at the door after work, arms wide for a hug, the diffuser quietly humming with lavender, not strawberries. Lavender was for comfort, she said. Strawberries were for excitement, for nights when she wanted to spice things up. For a long time, I thought that was just for me. Turned out she used that same scent for him. She left me alone one afternoon, and I watched the rain batter the hospital window. My reflection stared back, a gaunt, hollow-eyed man wrapped in bandages. My father used to tell me, "Son, you fight for what's yours. You never give up." But he never told me what to do when fighting was the very thing that tore your soul apart. I drifted in and out of sleep, remembering the phone call, the man's voice. I could almost see Laura in his arms, her body arching under him, the flush on her cheeks. I felt my stomach clench with jealousy and disgust, but also this sick need to know every detail. How did his skin feel against hers? Did she moan the way she did with me in the early years of our marriage? Did she whisper sweet lies into his ear? Or was it just raw, urgent lust? The images churned in my mind, torturing me. Finally, they discharged me. The house was gone. Burned to the foundation, along with most of our possessions. I didn't care much. The memories that mattered were ashes, too. I emerged from the hospital with a limp, bandages hidden beneath a sweatshirt. Laura was there in the lobby, holding a plastic bag with a few of my things. My phone charger, wallet, some clothes. She looked up at me, lips trembling as if she had a million words to say but couldn't begin. I walked right past her, feeling her presence like a cold draft on my neck. She followed me to the parking lot, eyes never leaving me. When I reached her car, I stopped. She stood a foot behind me, arms wrapped around her own waist. I could almost hear her heart pounding. "Alan," she said quietly, "I'm so sorry." I turned, forcing myself to look her in the eye. God, I loved this woman once. Maybe I still did. That's the worst part. The love doesn't vanish in an instant. It lingers in the heart, infecting it with pain. "We both are," I said finally. She leaned forward. "Please, can we just talk?" Her voice cracked. "We can go somewhere, maybe get coffee, just." I cut her off with a shake of my head. "I don't want to drink coffee with you. I don't want to talk about how you ended up in another man's bed. I don't want to sit in public pretending everything's normal." She swallowed, tears threatening again. "It wasn't just God, Alan. It was a mistake. But I needed something. I felt so alone, so forgotten. My body went rigid. Forgotten. So that's your reason." She blinked. "I'm not giving excuses. I'm trying to explain." Her eyes pleaded, but I was in no mood for explanations. Not now. Not while the burns still smarted and the memories of them together still throbbed in my skull. "I'll take a cab," I muttered, stepping away from her car. "Where will you go?" she asked, voice unsteady. "Anywhere you're not," I replied. My words felt like a bitter slash, but I couldn't help it. I turned my back to her, walked to the curb, and dialed a taxi. She didn't leave right away. She stood there, hugging herself against the drizzle that started to fall. I kept my eyes on the road, ignoring the ache in my chest that begged me to look at her, to say something kinder. The taxi arrived, and I got in. The driver asked me where to. I told him to just drive. We moved down the wet streets, and I stared out the window at the passing people. All these normal folks going about their day, unaware of the war raging inside me. My phone chimed. Laura's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Then I turned the phone off. I found a cheap motel and checked in. The walls were thin, the carpet stained, but it had a bed and a shower. I was still shaky on my feet, so I took it slow. Stood under the lukewarm water, gingerly unwrapped the bandages, careful not to tear my skin. Watched the water run down the drain, a swirl of ash and memories. After a while, I turned off the tap and stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection was a stranger, a man with burn marks across his left shoulder, a haunted look in his eyes. The ring finger on my left hand looked painfully bare. I'd left my ring behind, next to hers. That night, I barely slept. My mind spun with everything that happened. The call, her eyes when she came out of the shower, the tension in her voice as she tried to explain. And overshadowing it all, The images of her naked with him. A tangle of limbs in a bed that wasn't mine. My chest felt bruised from the inside out. A slow kind of death. Morning arrived, dull and gray. I left the motel, found a diner, and forced down a cup of coffee. It tasted like burnt plastic, but I needed the warmth. My phone stayed off. I paid with cash. Then I drifted through the city, searching for a place that might offer me some kind of calm. I ended up near the waterfront, watching gulls circle overhead. The sky threatened more rain. Eventually, I felt a vibration in my pocket. Some primal instinct made me check. It was a text from my son. He was at a friend's house, apparently, probably safe and clueless about the full extent of what happened. The text read, "Dad, where are you? Mom said you're hurt. Are you ok?" My heart twisted at the thought of him. He was old enough to sense that something catastrophic had happened. I typed back, "I'm okay. I'll see you soon. Don't worry." And I felt like a liar, because everything was very far from okay. But I couldn't keep avoiding him. I called him. He picked up on the first ring, voice tense with concern. "Dad, are you in the hospital? Mom said there was a fire." I cleared my throat. "I was in the hospital, yeah. I'm out now. Just needed some space." He was silent for a moment. Then, "Dad, talk to me. You sound weird." I nearly broke then. Nearly told him everything. But how do you tell your child that the life he thought was solid turned out to be a lie? That his mother betrayed me, that I can't forgive her, and that I set our home ablaze. You don't. You just don't. "I'm okay, son. I promise. Look, I need a day or two." "Are you safe where you are?" "Yeah, I'm with Jason's family. They said I can stay as long as I need." I swallowed hard. "Then stay put for now. I'll come get you soon." We hung up, and I realized I was shaking again. Slowly, I tucked the phone away. I decided to do something normal, something that would keep me from thinking too much. I found an old boat rental shack near the docks. The sign said it was closed, out of season. But I saw the owner rummaging inside. I knocked. He opened up, gave me a once-over. No doubt I looked rough, unshaven, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I asked if he could rent me a small rowboat. Just an hour on the water. He frowned, but a bit of cash convinced him. The next thing I knew, I was drifting on the gray waters of the bay, the oar in my hands, the sky threatening rain. It reminded me of the fishing trip I'd just come from, the trip that ended early, the trip that led me to discover her secret. My muscles ached from the hospital burns, but I rowed in slow strokes, letting the motion lull my frantic mind. The water slapped gently against the hull. Salt air stung my nose. I closed my eyes and listened. For a moment, the memory of my father's voice drifted in. "If you love her, never let go." I gritted my teeth. Maybe it was time to let go, or maybe love had become a chain. My father never faced this. My mother was loyal to the bone, or so he always said. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but they stuck it out. Me? My wife opened the door to a younger man's arms, and I was left with half my skin burnt and a heart that felt charred too. That night, I returned to the motel. I realized I had nowhere else to go. The house was gone. My job, maybe still there, maybe not. I hadn't called in. They'd probably assumed I was out sick or injured in the fire. My next few days passed in a blur of motel coffee, restless pacing, phone calls from my son, and calls from Laura that I never answered. The money in my wallet started to dwindle, so I bought groceries from the corner store, enough to survive. I stared at the battered walls of that motel room and felt like a prisoner of my own life. Eventually, I forced myself to talk to Laura. It was one evening when the sky had turned that murky pink right before sunset. My phone buzzed, and I hesitated but answered. Her voice came out in a trembling whisper. "Alan, where are you? I'm so worried. Why do you care?" I asked softly, a pause on her end. I could almost see her biting her lip. trying not to cry. "I care because I love you," she said, a hint of desperation slipping through. I almost laughed, but it caught in my throat as a strangled sound. Funny way of showing it. "Alan, please. I can't undo what's done. I was weak or confused or God. I don't know how to explain. But I need to see you. We need to talk about everything. I still want us. If there's any chance you—" "Don't say you want me," I interrupted, voice trembling. "You wanted him too. Maybe more." She sucked in a breath. "That's not true. It was a stupid affair. He gave me attention and made me feel alive. But it was never love. It was—" "Stop." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Stop talking about it like it's some cheap fling. It tore my heart out. It destroyed everything we built." She let out a broken sob. I know. I'm so sorry." I pressed a hand to my temple, feeling a dull ache. "I'll call you tomorrow," I said, my voice stripped of emotion. "Alan." I hung up. My chest heaved with breath I couldn't release. My mind was swirling, but I felt the faint flicker of something that might have been relief. At least now we'd spoken. Maybe that was a start. Or an end. Who knew anymore? Later, I forced myself to call my son. I told him I'd pick him up the next day, and that we'd figure out our living situation. He said, She's been crying. Dad, just talk to her, please." The pain in his voice cracked something inside me. He needed stability. He didn't need me to be a raging lunatic consumed by vengeance. I picked him up at his friend's place, hugging him tight. He had tears in his eyes, but he put on a brave face. I ruffled his hair like I used to, ignoring the sting in my bandaged hands. He climbed into the passenger seat of a borrowed car, an old beater I'd rented from a local shop with the last of my cash. We drove in silence, passing the charred remains of our home. Yellow tape marked the boundary. He stared at it, mouth parted in horror. "It was an accident," I said quietly. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I couldn't bear the thought of him seeing me as a monster. He just nodded, swallowing hard. "Where are we gonna stay?" I directed us to a small furnished apartment on the outskirts of town that I managed to rent month to month. It was the best I could find on short notice. My son looked around the bare rooms, the tired furniture, and forced a smile. "It's okay, Dad. We'll make it work." I patted his shoulder. "Yeah, we will." We settled in awkwardly. I got him a pizza for dinner, and we ate quietly. At one point, he looked at me with eyes too old for his face. "Dad, can I ask you something?" I set down my slice. "Sure." He fiddled with the crust. "Mom said you set the fire. Did you do it on purpose?" My heart hammered. "She told you that?" "Yeah. She said you were mad. But she didn't say why. She said she messed up, that you guys had a fight, and you lost your temper." I took a long breath, searching for a way to explain. "Your mom and we had a big problem. She did something that hurt me badly, and I guess I snapped. I'm not proud of what I did." He nodded, tears threatening his eyes. "Dad, are you guys getting divorced?" The word hit me like a punch. I realized I didn't have a clear answer. "I don't know, son. Maybe. We haven't decided." He looked away, shoulders slumping. "I just can't believe this is happening. We were fine a few weeks ago." I reached out, laid my hand on his. "I'm sorry. I wish I could fix it. But it's complicated." He didn't push for more details. He just nodded, blinking back tears. We finished dinner in silence. I let him have the larger bedroom, and I settled on the worn couch that night, unable to sleep. The bandages itched. My chest burned with regrets. Days passed. I avoided Laura's calls, focusing on my son, finding him a routine, making sure he got to school. I tried to arrange therapy for him. The guilt gnawed at me. I'd taken something from him, a safe home, an intact family. Yes, Laura was the one who cheated, but I had poured the gas and lit the match. In a way, we both destroyed everything. Then one evening, after I got back from dropping him at a friend's place, I found Laura waiting in front of our apartment building. She looked thinner, eyes sunken with grief. I almost turned around, but something in her expression stopped me. She stood by the entry door, arms folded. The sky rumbled overhead, threatening rain again. We locked eyes. She lifted her hand in a small, uncertain wave. My body tensed. I approached slowly, as if nearing a wounded animal that might lash out. She spoke first, voice shaky. "I've been calling. You never pick up." I stayed silent. She took a breath. "Alan, could we please go inside and talk? Or if you don't want me in your place, we can sit in the car. I need to see you, speak to you face to face." I stared at her. Memories flooded me. Our wedding vows. The sound of the phone message. The look on her face when she realized I knew. The night I burned the house. My fists clenched. I still wore bandages on my forearms. "Why now?" I asked. She wrapped her arms around her torso, as if to hold herself together. "Because I can't keep pretending that a few text messages or voicemails will fix this. I need to explain. I need to try to make you understand." A wave of anger rolled through me. "Understand? Understand what? That you fell on another man's cock because you felt lonely." I spat the words, louder than I intended. An old couple passing by on the sidewalk paused, alarmed. Laura's face burned with shame, tears welling up. I swallowed hard. "Let's go inside," I muttered, if only to keep the neighbors' eyes off us. We went up to the small living room. I gestured for her to sit, but she shook her head, preferring to stand. She took in the dingy apartment, the half-unpacked boxes, my son's backpack on the floor. She ran a hand through her hair, eyes flicking back to me. "This is so different from our old place." I bit back a bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, it's not on fire. That's something." She flinched, tears clinging to her lashes. "I never wanted it to end like this." "None of us did," I said quietly. "You think I planned on lighting the house on fire when I got married?" She pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. "I can't defend what I did. I was stupid, selfish. I was hurt that we never spent time together." "Don't twist this," I snapped. "You're going to blame me for not spending enough time with you. Is that it? So the affair is my fault?" She shook her head fiercely. "No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I was lonely, and Michael was just there. He paid attention to me, made me feel wanted. It was like a drug. I know I screwed up. I never intended to leave you. It was a horrible mistake." A heavy silence settled between us. She kept her gaze on me, tears shining. "Alan, I still love you. I never stopped, even when I was with him. Don't," I said, voice raw. "Don't talk about loving me while you were with him. It makes me sick." She bowed her head. "I'm sorry." I sank onto the couch, pressing my bandaged arms against my knees. "Why are you here?" I repeated. She hesitated. "I need to know if there's any chance for us, if we can possibly rebuild." I wanted to laugh, but tears stung my eyes instead. "Rebuild? Like we'd rebuild a burnt-down house? We can't. We burned the entire structure to the ground, Laura." She stepped closer, tentative. "But the foundation might still be there, underneath the ash. I love you. I know you love me. Even if you hate me right now, I know there's something left." My heart pounded so loud I thought she could hear it. Part of me wanted to reach for her. The memory of her in my arms still haunted me. Our wedding night. The day our son was born. The night she cried from exhaustion. And I held her. So many tiny, precious memories. But then that man's voice slithered into my head again. "You were amazing tonight." My face twisted. "All I see when I look at you now is him. Your body under his. Your mouth on his. You can say it was a mistake, but it was more than that. It was a choice you made over and over. She started to sob. Yes, I chose it. I can't deny that. But I regret it, Alan. If I could tear it all out of my life, I would. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let it out shakily. You realize I almost died in that fire. Her sobs caught in her throat. I know. I'm so sorry. I wish I could turn back time. I looked up at her, my eyes wet. I had a dream while I was unconscious. I was standing at the shore, fishing with my father. He told me not to let go of you. Said if I loved you, I had to forgive. But I can't. Every time I try, I smell strawberries and see your face twisted in pleasure with someone else. It feels like a punch in the gut. We locked eyes. I do love you, she insisted softly. Even now. My chest ached. I pressed a hand to it, as if I could calm my racing heart. A strangled laugh rose in me. Then why do I feel so damned hollow? Her lips trembled. She reached for my hands. I didn't pull away, but I didn't return the gesture either. She stroked my bandaged arms gently, tears falling onto the gauze. You were never invisible to me, Alan. I swear, I lost my way. I exhaled shakily. Why didn't you come to me first? Say you needed more attention, more intimacy, more anything. She looked at the floor. I tried, maybe in subtle ways, but you always seemed busy or distracted. Then I got tired of asking. I should have tried harder. I should have shouted it in your face if that's what it took. I realized she was telling the truth. She'd asked me to spend more weekends together, to join her in activities, to plan date nights, and I'd brushed it aside, always thinking we had more time. Always saying, next week, or we'll do it soon. Now, that soon was lost. Something in me cracked. Do you still see him? I asked, my throat tightening around the words. She shook her head. No. I cut off contact. I told him it was over, that I'm staying with my family. I don't care what he thinks. He never mattered as much as you. I studied her face. She looked older somehow, as if the weight of this affair had aged her. You're drowning, aren't you? I said softly, recalling the last image of her by the fire. She used to look so sure of herself. Now she was like a woman lost at sea, waiting for a rescue that might never come. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. Yes, and I'm afraid you won't pull me out. That you'll let me sink. I closed my eyes. Part of me wants to watch you go under for what you did, I admitted, voice ragged. But part of me can't bear the thought of losing you completely. She sank to her knees in front of me, pressed her forehead to my bandaged hands. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll wait for you, fight for you, prove myself every day if I have to. I'll go to counseling, therapy, anything. Just don't leave me. Something in her voice cracked my anger. I placed a trembling hand on her head. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears. I saw the woman I married, the mother of my child, the person I once believed was my perfect match. But we were far from perfect now. We were scared and broken. I lifted her chin gently. I can't promise forgiveness, I whispered. This wound is deep, but for our son's sake, and for the years we spent together, I'm willing to try to see if there's anything left. She exhaled a shaky breath, a spark of hope in her eyes. Thank you, she murmured, voice thick with tears. I helped her stand. We spent that night talking. Not sweet talk, not confessions of immediate reconciliation, more like raw, painful honesty. She told me how lonely she felt. I told her how betrayed I was. We wept. We raged. At some point, we lay side by side on the couch, not touching, just breathing in unison. The next day, we told our son we were trying to work things out. He looked at us with guarded relief, like he'd seen too many cracks in the foundation to believe it was fully stable, but he was grateful for any sign of hope. We scheduled marriage counseling, though I wasn't sure how effective it would be. Every time I looked at her, I felt the urge to run or lash out. But I stayed. I wanted revenge. I had exacted some measure of it already with the fire, but the hunger for more punishment lingered. I craved seeing that man suffer. Michael R. something. But maybe it didn't matter. She said she cut him off. I had a savage impulse to track him down, throw him against a wall, ask him what made him think he had the right to touch another man's wife. Yet I also sensed that might poison me further. This hate was a slow venom creeping through my veins, and I wasn't sure how to purge it except by letting time do the work. Counseling sessions were brutal. We aired every grievance, every ounce of suspicion. She admitted to the times they met at a motel, the way he made her feel younger, alive, wanted. I bit down on my lip until I tasted blood, forcing myself not to storm out. Our therapist was patient, encouraging honest dialogue. Sometimes I felt it helped. Other times, I left feeling more shattered than before. Behind all the anger and pain, I recognized that I still loved her. That's what cut the deepest. Because love wasn't enough to fix betrayal. But it was enough to make me cling to the idea of a future. Just maybe. Months passed in halting steps. We found a small rental house. Our insurance claim on the old place was still processing. It was complicated by the fact that I set the fire. Officially, it was labeled an accident, but I carried the weight of the truth. Every time I saw the charred remains, something twisted inside me. Yet, inch by inch, I tried to rebuild. I forced myself to let her in again, though I refused to bury the pain or pretend it never happened. We talked about it openly. Some nights, we'd end up screaming at each other, tears running down her face, my fists clenching at my sides. But in those outbursts, there was a release, and eventually exhaustion. Time crawled. I returned to work, explained away my burns with a half-truth about a kitchen fire. My colleagues gave me sympathetic looks. Laura got a different job. She quit the place where Michael worked. She wanted a clean break. She took a position at a different travel agency. It meant a pay cut, but she said it was worth it to remove that temptation from her life. I kept waiting for the day I'd snap, the day I'd walk out for good. But it didn't come. Instead, there were these quiet moments, late at night, when I'd wake up sweaty from nightmares of flames and betrayal, and she'd be there, wide awake, watching me with tears in her eyes. She never tried to hold me without my permission. She'd just wait to see if I wanted comfort or space. Gradually, I found myself reaching for her hand, letting her stroke my hair as I tried to calm my racing heart. My revenge had been the fire. I'd destroyed what we once had. But something new was growing in its place, a dark, fragile shoot pushing up through the ashes. I wasn't sure if I wanted to nurture it or stomp it out, but it was there, undeniable. Months turned into a year. Our son slowly relaxed in our new home, found new routines, new normalcy. He still had nightmares sometimes from the night of the fire. We tried to shield him from more pain, though he must have sensed the tension. We told him we were going to counseling, that we had problems but were working through them. He seemed to appreciate the honesty. One rainy evening, as we ate dinner, simple pasta, the steam fogging the kitchen window, my wife reached out and covered my hand with hers. "Alan," she said softly, "I'm grateful for this second chance." I studied her eyes, searching for any sign of deception. I only saw tired sincerity. "I haven't forgiven you completely," I said, my voice a hoarse murmur. "I don't know if I ever will." She nodded. "I understand. I'll keep trying." We finished dinner in a thoughtful quiet. Then she turned on some old jazz music, something slow. She asked me, "Will you dance with me?" I almost refused, the bitterness flickering in my chest, but I recalled the memories of our younger days, her perfume, my arms around her waist, the diffuser's gentle scent. I used to love how she'd rest her head on my shoulder, so I stood up from my chair and took her hand. We swayed in the small living room, the lamplight casting soft shadows. Our son watched from the couch, eyes cautious but hopeful. My chest felt tight with conflicting emotions: sorrow, love, regret, a glimmer of peace. The music ended, and we stood in silence. She rested her forehead against mine. Her breath trembled. "I wish I could heal your wounds," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "So do I. But that's not how it works. Some wounds scar." She nodded. "Then we live with the scars. Together." I swallowed. "Yeah," I said quietly, surprising even myself. "Together." An odd calm settled around us. In that moment, I realized something. She was right. We were both guilty. I'd been absent, taken her for granted. She'd cheated, betrayed our vows. We'd destroy our home in literal flames, nearly killing ourselves in the process. Yet somehow, amid the rubble, we were trying to piece together a life again. One day, maybe we'd succeed. Maybe not. The future was uncertain. But as we stood in that lamplit room, the storm tapping the windows, I felt a small measure of acceptance grow in my heart. The anger was still there, yes, but it was tempered by the undeniable fact that I still cared for her, enough to try. And that trying was the hardest thing I'd ever done. More terrifying, even, than the moment I faced the roaring flames. Because letting yourself love after betrayal demands a kind of courage that no one teaches you. It's either madness or hope, and maybe those two are the same thing. I took a breath, held her against my bandaged chest, though the bandages were gone by now, replaced by scared skin, and let the music float around us. She closed her eyes and exhaled. I felt her tears on my shoulder, the slight shake of her body. But I held on, because in the end, for better or worse, I couldn't let go. For the first time since that horrible night, I dared to think, perhaps we might survive this. Perhaps we might even find a way to be something stronger. The thought made my chest tight with both fear and an odd cautious relief. Then, in the silence between songs, I leaned down to her ear and whispered, "We are both guilty." She lifted her head, nodded, tears slipping over her cheeks. She didn't look away, didn't try to defend herself. She just accepted the truth, and for now, that was enough. I'd love to tell you that from that moment on, we lived happily ever after. That's not how real life works. We struggled. We fought. Some days, I found myself driving aimlessly, wanting to escape the memories of her betrayal. Other days, she caught me looking at her with such sadness that it made her weep. But we kept going to therapy, kept talking, kept acknowledging the pain instead of hiding it. Slowly, painfully, the cracks began to fill. The scars remained, yes, but we learned to bear them. As for Michael, her lover, he drifted away like a bad dream. No calls, no messages. He was gone from her life. And that was how it had to be. I never confronted him directly, though I came close once. I discovered his address through some mutual acquaintance. I drove there, parked across the street, stared at his front door. My hands shook on the steering wheel. All the rage boiled up inside me. But I didn't get out, because I realized it wouldn't help. Hitting him, screaming at him, it would give me a temporary thrill, but it wouldn't change what happened. It wouldn't erase the betrayal. So I drove away. And as I left, I felt that small piece of me that craved vengeance begin to dim. Maybe that was the real turning point. Accepting that you can't fix the past by unleashing more destruction. Months blended into years. My wife and I built a new home from scratch, with walls we painted together and furniture we picked out like we were newlyweds again. We were older, wearier, with lines around our eyes, but we approached this house with the reverence of people who understood how fragile everything is. Sometimes, late at night, she'd find me sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. She knew I was remembering the fire, the phone message, the look on her face. She'd sit beside me, silent, laying her hand on mine, and I'd let the night pass without pushing her away. Time doesn't heal all wounds, but it can dull the sharpest edges. We found a rhythm again, not quite the same as before. Maybe it never would be. But we loved each other in a more complicated way. Scarred, tested, but still joined at the core. Our son grew up, went off to college eventually, carrying some shadow of that betrayal in his memory, but forging his own path. We tried our best to support him without letting our own mistakes anchor him down. Occasionally, in the quiet moments, I remembered the day I came home early from fishing, heard that message, smelled that strawberry diffuser, and felt my world collapse. I used to replay it relentlessly, punishing myself. Now, I let the memory come and go. It was part of me, part of us. It shaped who we became, for better or worse. The scars on my body remain, a testament to the fire I started. The scars on my heart remain too. But so does the love. Because in the end, we are both guilty, and we both pay the price. Yet somehow, we keep living, breathing, and waking up every morning to face another day, together. I suppose that's all there is to say. Some nights, when the wind howls outside, I still hear the echo of that man's voice in my nightmares, or I see flickers of flame dancing at the edge of my vision. Then I reach out for her hand in the dark, and she's there. And that's enough to steady me. Maybe real love is learning to hold on, even when the storm rages. Maybe it's choosing to forgive the unforgivable, if only to save your own soul from drowning in hate. Or maybe it's all a cosmic joke. I don't have answers. But I know that every day I choose not to walk away. And she chooses to stay too. We are both guilty. But we are also still alive. And in this imperfect, painful, impossible life, maybe that's all we can hope for.